Before we start, keep in mind I have made videos on Storm 1 and 2, and I will assume that if you're watching this, you're familiar with them, and I don't have to baby you into certain recurring mechanics and such. Since this was the only Storm game I had never played, I didn't know what to expect. Boy was I happily impressed. Quite a few of my complaints from the previous title were addressed, and overall I think the game is an improvement on its predecessor. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's get on with my review of Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 Full Burst. And just like last time, I will not be calling it by its full name ever again. CyberConnect 2 must have a fetish for really long titles, and hey, no kink shaming here, but that ain't for me. Storm 3's story mode starts off with the Hidden Leaf village being attacked by the Ninetales Fox and Toby, and right after that it continues from Storm 2 on. So from the end of the destruction of the village by Pain, right up until halfway or so from the Fourth Ninja War. I'm not gonna lie, the ending is a bit weird and it's very obvious that it is how it is because they needed to finish the game and there was absolutely no good stopping point after going so far into the plot of the manga. Storm 1 ends right before the time skip. Storm 2 right after a huge turning point for Naruto and Sasuke, both characters being pretty much prepared for their second acts of Shippuden, that being the full-on turn of Naruto into a hero in everyone's eyes, and the renouncing and antagonizing of Sasuke towards his former comrades. Both seem like perfect spots for a break. Storm 3, however, drags itself into the Ninja War, and although there are some really cool things because of it, it's not really a good place to stop. Because of this, the ending feels a bit off. I don't mind if the game deviates from the source material. I mean, the reason for a video game based on something is so I can interact with the franchise in a unique way that only games can really offer. If that means adapting things to make everything work, so be it. But I don't enjoy when that deviation feels like a half-assed piss-poor attempt to break up the content. I know these anime games usually have weird licensing deals that require one game a year or something like that to keep active, and that's how we got Generations and Revolution in the first place. And at least there is a significant amount of improvements here, so I guess I should stop my rant right here. Let me monologue instead about some other things about Storm 3. The cinematic epic boss fights are back, and there are some really good moments on them, such as Sasuke vs Naruto, Sasuke and Itachi vs Kabuto, Naruto vs Kurama, some really good stuff, beautiful animation. Honestly, I very much prefer the animation of the game than of the actual anime, and you can tell a slight improvement on visuals and overall quality from Storm 2. However, yes, it's just a sprinkle of negativity right here. Its predecessor has the superior fights. I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but Sasuke vs Itachi, the bell-stealing drill, Sasori, Orochimaru, they just felt harder to replicate on versus mode. Storm 3 has some parts of bosses that truly just feel like glorified versus mode content. Sure, they tend to have more than one fight attached to them, but they also feel a bit less special. And come on, the new mob battles, which just consist of either going through a set path and beating up generic enemies, or unique ones like versus the Seven Swordmen. Although fun, let's not kid ourselves, it's just regular fighting with weaker enemies, and you can teleport to another one if you finish them off, and they made the ultimate jutsu suck ass, so that's about it. Something much better Storm 3 has is its ultimate decisions. These serve as difficulty options, having hero and legend routes, both on side quests and on boss fights. They usually have slight differences between both of them. I appreciate the attempt to engage with the player more and to give some options for people that might not want the challenge. These are also directly tied to your items now. Items have been divided into two categories, hero and legend. Hero has the help items such as healing and chakra recovery. Legend has the combat items such as burst kunais and lightning kunais. You can pick between both sets and choose what they have. Picking one of the routes will also grant you points towards those items, which when leveled up allow you to carry more of them. So I noticed I forgot to use any offensive items throughout the 40 or so hours of footage, so that should go to show how much I care for them. As for the healing items, they feel almost mandatory for a certain part of the game, but we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Other than that, they also serve as a way to make the game easier if you so desire. Alongside the lunch items, which raise your stats, it made these games even more accessible. Not that they were ever hard, but still, until you get to the last boss fight. So just like I say in every Storm game, these games are pretty easy, and Storm 3 might be the easier of them all. However, I feel like this was all a ploy by CyberConnect to sucker punch the player with some unlooped surprise butt stretches with their fattest custom ordered bad dragon tentacle, a 45-minute marathon of pain in which which I deem mandatory using one of the lunches to boost your stats for survival. So it starts off with Naruto and Bee finding Tobi and the new 6 Bats of Pain consisting of former Chinchuriki. Here you have the option to fight all of them at once or fight 3 with Naruto and 3 with Bee. This doesn't really matter for crap as the true horror begins after this. So some stuff happens and you fight the 6 Biju 2 at a time with Tobi in the middle. Here's the catch though, you can't use items. The lunch things you use is the only thing that you have. So it's an actual endurance battle, especially if you don't use the power boosts. After this, you still team up with Kurama and fight all of them once again, one at a time this time though. Granted, this part is much easier, but still. Finally, you still fight Tobi one last time and then you complete the game. The Biju part with Naruto is absolutely brutal and I really don't know what they were thinking. Yeah, it does make the conclusion of the game feel epic and stand out, but damn, it just feels very unfair even with the support attack. This triggers the endgame, where you can finally free roam throughout various different locales. Unlike in the manga, Tobi retreats and there is a time of peace where Naruto can do whatever he wants. This is where the side quests are accessible. Just like Storm 2, you can go to specific places and collect stuff. The deal is still the same with the predetermined camera angles and some loading screens between areas. Once again, these locales are beautifully rendered, but are nothing more than glorified PNGs that you can walk on. At least this time you feel quicker, so that's good. And collecting random stuff is not as big of a chore, mostly because it's a much faster to do so, and thankfully even less mandatory even for completion. This time around there is a much bigger disparity between the story and the endgame content. The moment you start the adventure mode, it feels like go, go, go. I mean, I felt that once in a while they would remember they were supposed to be making a video game and not a movie and throw you a fight, or even stupider, a walking section that would end in 2 minutes or less, such as when Naruto is talking to his mom and it's been ages since they allow you to play and all of a sudden you're playing as a pregnant woman walking for a minute or so just to go back to the cutscenes immediately after. The entire narrative is shown to you like this, only having small spots to save. You don't even have access to most side quests before the story ends, simply because there would be no place for them at all. On the other hand, the endgame is slow and dragged out, a lot closer to what Storm 2 was. It's a lot better, but still slow as hell. The side quests also need to be done in a particular order, which is not that weird. What I found weird though is the amount of them that need to be done before others. Not to mention that they are divided into special and normal missions, and on top of that, there are also friendship levels to rise which lead to special interactions, which, to my knowledge, you need to complete to gain access to one of the special missions, which also needs you to max out the legend ninja tools to do. It's not all bad though. For once, I actually preferred the less walking around on the main story, and the side missions did a better job at not boring me, with some having difficulty options as well as being all round goofy, reminding me that Naruto isn't all war and sadness. It also has a lot of silly, lighthearted moments. Collecting the Ninja World timeline isn't even that bad because you mostly earn them throughout the main fights. Plus, they are a funner way to catch up with the show, even if they are only simple fights. It's still better than what Storm 2 did. And a huge thumbs up to the implementation of the part in the manga where Naruto has to find the Zetsus pretending to be allies, being turned into a side quest pretext that actually made sense. Shit was neat and intelligent and I digged it. They also allow you to use more characters on side mission fights by using some bullshit excuse that I already forgot. That was a big complaint I had with Storm 2 and I'm glad it was fixed here, and I could use more than a dozen or so characters. Speaking of characters, holy shit has this game bulked up. In a total there are 81 playable characters and 31 unique stages. Some stages actually have ring outs which are very fun to do, but I completely understand how they could be extremely frustrating for online and local play since they end battles instantly. You do have to break an invisible wall first, and your support can help you by sacrificing to send you back to the stage, so it's not an instant loss the moment you are on an edge. Still, it could get very frustrating for sure. There was a few things changed with the gameplay as well. Storm 3 was the first mainline game to have 4 substitutions that recharge over time, instead of using your chakra to substitute. The support characters have health and can be put out of commission by saving you from the before mentioned ring outs or by taking ultimate jutsus for you. The awakenings are crazier than ever, with some characters even being able to access them at will from the start and gaining new jutsu. My favorite examples of this are Tobi with the fan weapon and Minato. Trust me, these boys can shred through everything with their awakened status. This game must have been a nightmare online. Not that I would know because I don't have Plus, and unlike Storm 2, I never played it when it originally released. On the whole, I feel like the game is a bit faster and even more fluid than before, so the gameplay is always fun. Once again, it's perfect for anyone to understand, and although I'm sure there are ways to optimize your damage dealing, it's more of a spectacle than a competitive game, maybe even more than before. There was also an attempt to make adventure mode more cinematic, with actual camera changes when people talk, at least on the main plot, and they try to hide the terrible lip sync at least a little bit, which hasn't been fixed since Storm 1. There are also hidden actions that try to spice up certain boss fights, and these were highly underutilized even though they were a fun idea. They reminded me of Dragon Ball Tenkaichi 3, when you would be prompted to press R3 to do some story related thing, which I always loved when I was younger. But I digress once again. There were more technical changes with the game, but honestly I don't really care about all that, so I'll carry on. This time around, Storm 3 has a lot more options for you outside of adventure mode, including tournaments, where you battle predetermined enemies or create your own, survival, which you have to beat a side mission to unlock, and it just consists of fighting predetermined characters or random ones, which give you nothing and never really end. You have an actual training mode, and the regular 1v1 or team versus team free fighting. Finally, you have the biggest one, mission mode. In here, you have 100 missions with different stipulations. They start repeating, just harder, so don't expect unique ones every time. In here, it is absolutely necessary. Well, not really, but it's so absolutely unfair without it that at least one or two of these missions are the ones that I mentioned before, where you will need the healing items. I believe it was the last one where one hit and you're dead, and you need to survive I don't really know how many seconds. Fighting against Deidara. If you played any Storm game with him, then you know the pain of the clay projectiles. If not, then consider yourself lucky, I guess. All you get for doing this is some wallpapers that you can't even save to your console, which is absolutely ridiculous. Even the PSP Naruto Ninja Impact lets you save the PNGs you earned on it, but whatever, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And I think that's about all. Naruto Storm 3 is a considerable improvement on Storm 2, whether it be on the gameplay or even the fact that at least the main quest doesn't waste your time as much are all leaps ahead. Sure, the instant awakenings made certain characters busted, but I'm here for the fun, not the competitiveness, so I don't really care. This is an absolute recommend from me, but I'm going to give a little spoiler here. I actually recommend you play Storm 2, 3, and 4. The first one only if you're a really big fan, but the other three absolutely. They feel like continuations of the same game, and they truly complete each other. But I'm getting ahead of myself once again. For now, Storm 3 is a recommend, and next time we will get to Storm 4 and the Boruto DLC. If you would be interested in that, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like, and tell me anything you want in the comments, I don't really care. Hope to see you next time.